So the subject matter was the problem with the father template of God in the Christian faith. The anthropomorphic template. And because we are imprinted with the human parentage, with the human model of living, being raised by parents and living with our parents, we overlay that template onto our relationship with God as Father. It's unavoidable to not bring this into the relationship with God. For instance, as children, in the common template of relationship to our parents is that we have to please our parents for approval and validation. And it becomes a cycle of pleasing and validation, pleasing and being noticed, right? It's just the way the human relationship works. And so we conform to an unnatural template because we are so wired to need love, to need attention, to need to be noticed, to need to be approved. We're wired for that in this human body. And this gets shaped during our childhood in the soul, in the subconscious mind. And it's a behavior modification, a learned behavior that's not authentically who we are. And when we transfer this to our relationship to God as Father, there's always going to be the subconscious need, requirement to please God for approval and validation. This then circumvents the potential and opportunity to truly explore who we really are, what our personality really is, what our soul really is. Because we're always living behind a mask. We're always living behind a fake persona. Learned behavior, not authentic behavior. And because we transfer that to our relationship with God, in the subconscious is always this driver of needing to please God for His approval. And if a person never wakes up during their lifetime and they carry this subconscious template with them to their end of life, on their deathbed, the subconscious program is going to get released as the organs in the body start to fail. The brain, the functions of the brain start to fail, and the subconscious mind or the soul releases all the trauma and all the stored imprinting all at once. And this then becomes the content for many near-death experiences, right? When these shadows are released, people will have these hellish experiences of feeling in darkness, or going to hell, because all of this pain, this soul pain, is released instantly. Whereas while we are living in the body, our conscious mind keeps suppressing our unconscious feelings, and we stay unaware. That's why we can keep those shadows at bay when we are alive. And so we live our lives unconscious of our shadows. But at the time of our passing, transitioning, no more, the ego is not going to be able to hide the reality of the soul anymore, and these things all come up. They all come up in an overwhelming way, and that's why so many people are afraid on their deathbed, and because they're experiencing the release of their soul and the imprinting, the trauma. So back to my point, why I say and believe that thinking of God in terms of a father figure is not beneficial, because of that element that I mentioned, the function of pleasing the parent for approval, keeps us out of being our authentic true self. And so if we end up living religiously, living under a belief system, we're going to be living as a hypocrite or a play actor, donning the costume, this religious costume, to gain favor with God, to gain approval from God. This is totally unconscious, meaning you're not aware. You're not consciously aware that you're doing it. But it's the driver that will direct your entire life. And this need for approval is what keeps us from being authentically ourselves, from being a rebel, from being a renegade, right? But all of that is linked to trauma. And once you start doing your shadow work, once you're allowing yourself to feel your real feelings that have been suppressed, you can bring them to the light and assess them and recalibrate them, transmute them now with your adult rationale, right? Because our traumas, our imprints were formed when we were children, when we didn't have the rational brain developed. And our child brain created beliefs subsequently to the environment that we were experiencing, the stimuli we were experiencing, and our child mind created beliefs about ourselves that are not actually true, because we lacked the rationale to reason this out, why things were happening the way they did. So that's why you need to preferably do shadow work before you pass, so you can transmute this karma, you can transmute this trauma, and then you don't have to be faced with these anxieties on your deathbed. So yeah, I hope this made sense, and I hope you have the courage to work through that and realize that you can let go as God as your father image. That belief system, that image is problematic for the reasons I stated.